I've been studying Japanese for about a year now, and having recently finished Genki 1 and 2 and learned about 1,000 vocab words, I decided it was finally time for some real learning. Anime, or as they call it, native content. A top recommendation I saw for beginners was Yuru Yuri, so I dove into that and was bored as after 2 episodes. Here's the problem. Most of the animes being recommended for beginner learners are slice-of-life kind of shows with not much of a plot, which a lot of people just aren't into and get bored by. If you do like that kind of stuff, that's great, and I'm not here to hate on it, but if you aren't and want something a little more interesting like me, here's what I did. Hit the mines. By that I mean this site called jpdb.io, where you can sort every anime known to man by its difficulty rating. And eventually I found Celestial Method here with a rating of 2. Nice. The synopsis says a group of children attempt to summon an alien spaceship to grant their wishes, and one actually shows up and has been mysteriously chilling up in this small town ever since. Finally, I thought. Something interesting. So I watched all 13 episodes and found it a great experience for learning Japanese. I'll start off by giving more of an overview of the show itself in general, and then I'll discuss it from a Japanese learning perspective and what made it effective for that purpose. So, like I said, some kids summon an alien spaceship, right? Well, this is anime, so of course the alien is a blue-haired lolly. This isn't a spoiler, by the way, she's literally in the poster and shows up in the first 5 minutes. After the dark ritual they performed to summon the saucer though, they didn't realize that it actually worked, and the main girl moved out of town and the group was split up for 7 years. Until she moves back, and that's when the show starts. She then reunites with her friends, the alien girl, and they begin an epic journey of friendship and stuff. They don't actually know the girl, Noelle, is from the saucer at first, and one of the girls is for some reason very intent on finding a way to get rid of the spaceship, even though it's done literally nothing harmful the whole time it's been here. And Noelle, who is the alien, just casually goes along with it and helps her with it even. To be fair though, I suppose she does behave a little questionably at times, and there is this scene in the outro where the ship just straight up nukes the village, even though that does not happen in the show. This outro is fire, by the way. Really puts Sasageo to shame here if I'm being honest. Anyways, back on topic. I have to be a little bit honest here. There isn't quite as much focus as I initially expected on the whole mystery of the saucer. A lot of the plot is about drama between certain members of the friend group and why they split up and whatnot and getting them back together, but it's still a lot more engaging than a slice of life show where basically nothing happens. There is still a plot, and towards the latter half of the show the focus gets brought back to Noelle and the saucer and what they're here to do. The visuals and scenery were also nice, and overall I thought it was a fun show with a cool vibe to learn some Japanese with. Which, speaking of that, let us now discuss what made it good for that purpose. So, first of all, as one would expect from a show with a difficulty rating of a 2 out of 10, the dialogue is mostly quite simple. They speak in short sentences using a lot of easy vocab for the most part. And they're talking about everyday stuff like school, hanging out with friends, and how to get rid of the giant UFO haunting their town. Noelle in particular is usually easy to understand pretty much. She speaks in simple and childlike speech because she's, after all, an alien not from Japan, and this presumably isn't her first language either, just like us. I definitely noticed some improvement in my comprehension after finishing it. In the first episode, I would often hear a sentence, pause and think to myself, I have no idea what just came out of that person's mouth. But then I would go back and read the subtitles and realize I knew almost every word in the sentence, and it was just a matter of me not being able to pick it up hearing it spoken at full native speed. There's definitely a big jump from content made for learners and actual native material. That's why it's so good, I think, to start with something simple like this. If you already know most of the basic words and grammar concepts they're using, You can mainly focus on picking it out at full speed and improve on that skill, which is definitely what happened. I won't say I understood everything that was being said as if it were English, far from it. There was definitely still a lot of pausing and translating, even by the last episode. But I noticed I was picking out more. Even if I didn't understand a whole sentence, I would usually at least recognize the vocabulary that I did know within that sentence, and have a guess at the idea of what was being said before I translated the whole thing. Which, by the way, I was using the asbplayer browser extension to load in the Japanese subtitles, and the Yomitan browser extension to translate the Japanese words by clicking on them when I didn't know a particular word. I definitely recommend that setup as a way to do this. Listen to a line or two, pause and try to understand, then go back and decipher it to learn what you missed before moving on. Going through a sentence a few times until you can understand it just by hearing it is a good way to improve, I think. Of course, this gets tedious after a while, so I wouldn't do it every sentence. Eventually I would switch to just letting it play a bit and picking up what I could, which I still think is useful. Luckily this isn't Death Note we're watching. The plot isn't too complicated, and it's usually pretty easy to pick up what's going on from context. For example, oh look, one of the girls seems to be missing and she goes back to investigate. I wonder what's happening. Maybe she's, going back to investigate where her friend went. Stuff like that. Anyway, I hope this was useful to somebody out there. I think Celestial Method is a great show for learning Japanese. I could really feel myself recognizing more words and keeping up with sentences better by the final episode. I absolutely recommend giving it a watch, and let me know whether you're Team Noaru or Team Enban no Oidas.